In the winter chill of January 24th, 1989, outside Florida State Prison, hundreds of people gathered in the dark. Some held signs. Others cheered. Many simply waited for smoke to rise. The signal that Theodore Robert Bundy, America's most infamous serial killer, had finally met the electric chair. Reporters jostled for position. Cameras flashed. A chant began to roll through the crowd. "Burn, Bundy, burn!" To the world, Ted Bundy was a paradox. The handsome law student, the courteous boyfriend, the political volunteer who slaughtered women with unimaginable cruelty. Ted Bundy's story begins on November 24th, 1946, in Burlington, Vermont. He was born in a home for unwed mothers to Eleanor Louise Cowan, just 22 years old. In post-war America, illegitimacy was shameful. To hide it, Louise's parents raised Ted as their own child and told him his mother was a sister. The deception formed the first crack in Bundy's identity. When he later learned the truth, that his sister was his mother, friends said something in him changed. He withdrew, distrustful and detached. Growing up in Tacoma, Washington, young Ted was quiet, intelligent, and socially awkward. Yet even as a child, he displayed a fascination with control. He spied on neighbors through windows. He stole knives and magazines from trash bins. At the University of Washington, Bundy studied psychology. Ironically, trying to understand human behavior, he could imitate but never feel. To peers, he was polite, witty, ambitious. He volunteered at political campaigns, helped local crime prevention programs, and dated Stephanie Brooks, a woman who embodied the life he craved. Wealthy, sophisticated, belonging to a world that seemed forever out of his reach. When Stephanie broke up with him, saying he lacked direction, Bundy's fragile self-image splintered. That rejection would echo through his crime for years. Bundy mastered the art of mimicry. He studied mannerisms, charm, and empathy like a second language. Friends described him as magnetic, clean-cut, trustworthy. No one imagined what had beneath the mask. By 1974, the mask began to slip. Women started vanishing around the Pacific Northwest. Intelligent, college-aged, long-haired brunettes who looked hauntingly similar to Stephanie Brooks. Police were baffled. The disappearances seemed random, yet the pattern was unmistakable. The predator often pretended to be injured, wearing a sling, using crutches, and asked women for help loading books or moving objects to his Volkswagen Beetle. Once they were close enough, they never came back. Inside Bundy's mind, the illusion of control was intoxicating. He wasn't killing for pleasure alone. He was reenacting rejection, rewriting humiliation, proving dominance over the very image that once hurt him. Investigators later suspected Bundy's first known attack was Karen Sparks, a 21-year-old student assaulted in her bed in 1974. She miraculously survived, though with permanent injuries. Weeks later, Linda and Healy vanished from her house near campus. Her bed neatly made, her blood-soaked nightgown missing. Over the next months, the Northwest became a landscape of fear. Donna Manson, Susan Rancourt, Roberta Parks, Brenda Ball, George Ann Hawkins, all gone without trace. Witnesses spoke of a polite young man with a sling who introduced himself as Ted. On July 14, 1974, at Seattle's Lake Sammamish State Park, broad daylight revealed the killer's audacity. Two women, Janice Ott and Denise Naslund, disappeared hours apart after being approached by a man named Ted who needed help loading a sailboat. Dozens saw him, describing his tin Beetle and his calm demeanor. It was a break police needed, but they had no last name, no license plate, just Ted. As pressure mounted, Bundy moved to Utah, enrolling in law school. There he continued his killing spree, abducting and murdering Melissa Smith, Laura Am, and others. He crisscrossed states, Colorado, Idaho, Oregon, leaving corpses scattered like dark breadcrumbs. The mask slipped further. He collected trophies, clothing, jewelry, sometimes even photographs. His killings were ritualistic. He revisited the remains, controlled even in death. Psychologists later called Bundy a textbook narcissist with antisocial personality disorder, but labels barely capture his cunning. Bundy understood appearances. He mimicked empathy so well that even seasoned detectives doubted his guilt. He studied police procedures, volunteered in political campaigns. and even worked at a suicide hotline center beside in Rule, who would later write The Stranger Beside Me, and recalled his gentleness on the phone, calmly talking people out of dying. Unaware she sat beside a serial killer. Bundy's intelligence wasn't genius. It was predatory. He watched people's faces for weakness, mirrored their emotions, and stored every reaction. To him, human connection was a stage act, one that ended in terror when the mask fell away. In August 1975, police stopped Bundy's tin Volkswagen for a routine traffic violation in Utah. Inside, they found ski mask, handcuffs, rope, and a crowbar, a killer's toolkit. When questioned, Bundy smiled and gave plausible explanations. But soon investigators connected him to missing women across states. His girlfriend, Elizabeth Klopfer, who had long suspected his late-night disappearances, finally called police. She found strange objects in his apartment. Plaster casts, knives, women's clothing. But investigators at first dismissed her claims. Bundy was extradited to Colorado to face murder charges in 1977. Acting as his own attorney, he gained access to the courthouse library, and one day, he simply jumped out a second-story window, vanishing into the mountains. After 6 days on the run, he was caught again, thinner but smiling. Months later, in December, he escaped again, sawing through a light fixture hole in his cell ceiling, crawling into a guard department, and walking out the front door. By the time police noticed, Bundy was already 1,300 miles away, heading to Florida. In January 1978, Bundy arrived in Tallahassee, broke, tired, but still driven by the same hunger. He found lodging near Florida State University under the alias Chris Hagen. On January 15th, he entered the Chi Omega sorority house around 3 a.m. What followed was one of the most brutal crimes in American history. Within 15 minutes, Bundy bludgeoned and strangled Margaret Bowman and Lisa Levy, severely beating two others before fleeing. Weeks later, he abducted and murdered 12-year-old Kimberly Leach, his final known victim. His luck was running out. On February 15th, a Pensacola police officer pulled over a suspicious VW Beetle. Bundy fought, was arrested, and finally uttered the words, "I wish you had killed me." Bundy's Florida trials in 1979 were the first nationally televised murder trials in U.S. history. Viewers were captivated by the handsome defendant who cross-examined witnesses, smiled for cameras, and proposed marriage to Carol and Boone in open court. His narcissism thrived under the spotlight. He believed he could charm a jury just as he charmed his victims. But the evidence was overwhelming. Bite marks, eyewitnesses, stolen items. On July 24th, 1979, Ted Bundy was convicted and sentenced to death. He smiled, winked at reporters, and said, "Tell the people I'm fine." For nearly a decade, Bundy filed appeals, manipulating psychologists and interviewers for attention. He spoke of himself in the third person, dissecting the entity that drove him. In later confessions, he admitted to 30 murders across 7 states, though experts believe the real number could exceed 100. January 24th, 1989, the day the cheers erupted outside Florida State Prison. Inside, Bundy's final words to his lawyer were calm. "Give my love to my family and friends." At 7:16 a.m., the current surged through his body. Moments later, smoke rose from the prison roof. The crowd roared. For them, justice had finally come. Ted Bundy remains a haunting symbol of evil wearing a human face. His story forces society to confront uncomfortable truths, that monstrosity can hide behind charm, that intellect without empathy breeds horror, and that evil often begins with small deceptions. Decades later, his name endures not from fascination with his crimes, but as a warning. He was not a monster born. He was a man who chose monstrosity. Bundy once said, "We serial killers are your sons, your husbands, we are everywhere." That line still chills the world because it reminds us that beneath ordinary smiles can lurk unimaginable darkness. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell us in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed? And of course, subscribe for more stories like this.